As usual, curiosity got the better of me, so I had to tear the cylinder head off once I got the crankcase cover off. Head gasket, of course, it tore in a few pieces. High temp silicone seal could probably repair it for a short run, but since I intend on cutting grass with it, I'll probably put a new one on. The cylinder looks in great shape on it. Main thing I wanted to do was to lap the valves and clean the carbon out of the combustion chamber and the piston. I've already scraped the piston down. It's funny though, it says quantum on the connecting rod, so I guess with this kind of a funky shaped crankcase cover, it's a quantum engine, even though it doesn't say that anywhere on it. And that sure looks like a racing piston to me. Hardly anything above the piston pin there. I guess this is one of those that the pin only comes out one way. It's got one snap ring and nothing on the other side. Maybe they found they can make it a little lighter that way. And also the two connecting rod bolts are different lengths with it there. The long one goes in where it's longer, so maybe they saved a little bit of weight there too. It's got the really thin piston rings on it there for emissions. The sunk in valves, they've done that for a number of years, but the older valves are flat. But just like the airplane engines in World War II, they found that when they got hot, they naturally wanted to dish in the center, so they figured why not make them that way in the first place. Lighter also, but they do cause you a little bit of compression ratio. So I'll be pulling the valves out and lapping those, basically cleaning her all up. Still gotta clean the combustion chamber out there. Looks like somebody put a new spark plug in it. I think they unsuccessfully, they didn't get it running afterwards anyways, so. Well, just putting this Briggs Model 12 back together here. Had the piston out and the valves. Basically, total disassembly job. So got the piston back in here. Normally I use just a hose clamp basically for putting compressing the piston rings. You know, just mount it there. But it wouldn't work on these ultra thin oil rings, so I just compressed them with a dull screwdriver. They require so little tension that I was able to do it quite easily, unlike the older rings. And then I used the hose clamp for the two compression rings, but you have to be a lot more careful with these motors, and there's a lot less ring friction too. I noticed the piston just slid right down easily. I always check it afterwards to see. Dang full camera cards. Like I was saying, I always move the connecting rod and piston back and forth after I get it in by hand without not connected to the crankshaft, just to check the friction. It should move fairly easily. If it hangs up, then maybe you've got a ring bound up or something. So I have actually had that happen at least once or twice. So just getting ready to bolt the con rod on. Like I said, this one's unusual in that it's got one long rod that goes in the where the rod's thickest there. So button her all up and hopefully get it going. Still gotta scrape the old gasket off the head and the crankcase cover there, but I'll get to that. So I've got this motor all ready to button up here. I put this grease around the gasket surface on the block and the crankcase cover. I don't know if it needs it, but I do it anyways. Got the tappets installed there. Everything's oiled up, bushings, everything, so should be all. And I've even got the steel washer on the crankshaft gear there. Don't want to forget it, or the plastic won't be able to take the heat. This will try to bore its way into the gear. So then make sure that your governor is lined up with the arm there. Yeah, should all be good. Well, there it is. The short block's all buttoned up, and I had to grind the intake valve just a hair. It was just slightly out of tolerance on the not enough clearance side. I find that with a lot of motors. I have to do a little adjustment to the valve lash. The valves wear in and reduces the lash so that it gets so that your valves might be partially open, just a couple thou is enough to cause problems. So I always check them, especially when I'm doing pretty well a complete engine like this, since I want it to run correctly. So anyway, I'll move on to the head gasket there. I got lots of scraping to do on that. Clean the head up. Well, there, it's starting to look more like a just about complete motor now. Got the muffler on, the flywheel, dipstick tube, magneto, it's got spark, got the intake manifold on, carburetor, this governor piece there. These ones have more parts than the old 3.5s. You got this piece, and I still got like a dozen bolts left there to put on it. And I know there's, you got 4 on the starter, or the sheet metal cover anyways, and then ones that hold the separate ones for the recoil, etc. So, see, I'm not really familiar with these, so it's a learning experience, but I'll figure it out. I've got enough examples of it that I can use. So I've got the motor bolted on the deck now. New air filter in it. It's all put back together. I just don't have the pretty up top cover on it there. So I got the motion belt installed there. The 3 motor bolts tightened up. I'll take my one out here. The pulley, it actually slides off really easy, as you can see. So I just got to install this belt cover there and put the blade on. These mulcher blades, I guess, on it there. I sharpened it up. I won't be mulching, so it came with this attachment to open up the chute there, so that's what I did. So it won't be long before I'll add oil to it and gas and fire her up, hopefully. Well, got her going on about the second pull. Had a little bit of a gas leak at the fuel bowl. Nut wasn't quite tight enough on the bottom. Did that, the gas stopped leaking, cleaned it all up, and away she went. My only complaint is that it wants to go too fast. I'm not the slowest walker in the world, but this wants to go faster than I want to, and there's no speed adjustment, so I guess the only thing I can do would be to slow the motor down, but that's not easy to do since there's no throttle. There. I guess it will idle if you force it to. Yeah, all I can think of is reducing the pulley size or increasing the pulley size on the transmission, which I may do because it's just too fast.